Hi guys, welcome to I Like to Do Stuff, and this is part 2 of our chess series. So, alright, so let's start this one. We're gonna start this one by talking about multiple different openings and reviewing the last one we did. And also we'll talk about how each opening is helpful in the fight for the center and the fight in the end to win the game. So in this video we'll talk about openings, and then in the next video it'll be mid game, and then after it'll be end game. So let's start. First, let's start with let me change the name really quick. Italian opening. We've talked about this in our last video, but I want to go into it with a little bit more detail. And then we'll make this one the Scotch opening. We'll make this one the French, and then we can do the Spanish. And if we have a little bonus time, we can do the Sicilian. Alright, so let's start with the Italian. The Italian goes like this. E4. By the way, if you haven't watched our video, the previous video, the basics of chess part 1, over here, this one tells you everything you need to know about, like, all the basics of chess. You can't see it, but I made the other one. And anyway, that one explains how to do the notation. So E4 means E, the E rank, and then the fourth row. Anyway, let's continue. So then we are having E5, then knight F3. This is to attack the pawn. Because as we talked about, since knights move in L shapes, when they attack pawns, they can take pawns the same way. So then black does this to protect, and then white does this. This is a good move because it develops your bishop and also fights for the center. Black does the same, and white castles. Castles to protect the king. And then if you want to go a little further into it, like we didn't do last time, something black could do would be probably this, to attack this pawn, and then we could protect if we're white. And then one more thing that black could do is to put on extra support for this pawn over here. We could do this. And we're also, opening the bishop, so the bishop can go a lot of places. So some good moves for white here are probably H3 and the D3. The reason H3 and D3 are good moves is because what happened here is that I actually didn't let black castle yet. The reason being is I wanted to explore this one first. So the bishop wants to go here and pin the knight to the queen. That means if we were to move the knight and then the bishop, so let's say I just did this, the bishop, one sec. The bishop would be pinning it. And then let's say I made a blunder as to do this. We lose our queen for a bishop, which is a really bad trade, depending on points. So 9 for a 3, and the queen is just more valuable in general. So that's very bad, right? Like, we should really even just delete this whole line. So, here's the thing, though. Black also didn't do such a good thing. Black should have castled to protect his king. And then, now, this is how the Italian actually goes. We do D3 to, for the same reason black did, to take the pin, and also to just develop the bishop and support this. Black could do the same. and then we pin, he pins. Or we could also go back and say um, that, yeah, if we do d3, then black does this so that we can no longer pin him, because pinning would put pressure on the knight, so it's not good for black. So you could do that, and then white could move the bishop elsewhere. So yeah, there are a lot of possibilities. But really, if you need to know something, you should know up till about this position. Maybe the position where you save the knight, or like move the bishop. And then you can basically play from your own, like, from the rules of, according to the rules of chess, meaning make sure you take the four center things, the four center squares, you make sure that you know, try to control them as much as you can. And then also start formulating plans to get checkmate around here, or here for the white. So, yeah. Alright, let's move on to the Scotch. The Scotch starts out like the Italian. The reason being is because a lot of moves, they are a lot of openings, I should say, start with e4, e5. Not all of them do, but not all of them do, but a lot of them do, because that's a good way to start. And then developing the knights in pretty much the exact order that should happen. So we continue the same way, attacks, protects. But then white does something different this time. White does d4. The point of d4 is that white, if black doesn't do anything protective, white will take this, black will take that, and then white will take back, going like this. So let's say black just does this or something, which is still an okay move, because you're attacking, but I could do this, 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 and this. But that's not how you play the Scotch. If you're black, you actually want to take, and then white can take. Now, after this, there's a lot more things you could do. So the way I was taught, which is the good way, is to do this. And so now you're threatening a pawn, and then white has to do this, and then you kind of just start developing. You can look closer into these moves, but these are just mainly developing moves, which are trying to get the center, and also to make way for the castling to happen. Anyway, back to the point. This is basically how you play the Scotch. So if you want to pause and look at the moves and everything, yeah. But here's the thing. A lot of people, when they take, like a lot of people when white takes, they don't do these moves. Instead, what they do is they take back, and then white takes. This is good for white because everything is controlled. Everything in the center is controlled by white, especially because its queen is here. But this isn't even that good for white because also your knights aren't developed, your bishop isn't, your bishops aren't, your rook isn't. So it's like not really that great, It's better for white than it is for black, but it's not really that good for anybody. So the better way to play is probably this way. This is better for both players. Either way, it's pretty even, but this way is a better way to play. Alright, so now that we've finished the Scotch opening, let's move on to the French. So the French opening is an opening that's actually different from most. Alright, there are 3 ways to play the French. So the French goes like this. Well, there are multiple ways, but 3 main ones. Um, right, and then you go this, and then this. This is where the decision comes. So there are three main moves you can do here. It's like this, or this. Alright, so I'll briefly explain each one. So let's say the advanced variation is the one you choose. Then, in the advanced variation, we do, well, black wants to attack, so they do this. We do c3 to protect, and it becomes a pawn chain. We can do black attacks more, we protect. The queen tries to attack even more with a lot of attackers. And then we do this. You might be thinking, wait, isn't that a blunder? Because now he can take. Well, take a look at this good move. After we do all the exchanges, black is actually up a pawn. But we have this really cool trick. You see, once we did this move, we put the king in check while we were simultaneously attacking the queen. So now, whatever the king does, wherever he moves, whatever he does to get out of check, we get the queen. So that's why black probably wouldn't take. What black would do is they would take about this much, and then black would play. They would either take like this and start developing, or they would, instead of doing anything, they would play this. And then they would start trying to take the pawn. Anyway, this is the first opening in the French. And this was basically how it would end. Well, the opening part. So now it's time for the French part 2. Alright, so now what if we take? Well, if we take, it honestly gets kind of standard. We attack, they defend, we defend. It kind of gets like the Three Knights or the Italian. And then you would just play it like a normal game. I kind of call this one the boring variation, because it's just boring. It's really simple, but it's boring. And yeah. You can play basically whatever you want after a short number of moves. And finally, last but not least, there is the one sec. Alright, and last but not least, the trash. So the trash goes like this one. And the trash is actually kind of a bit odd because it's honestly a bit of a mix of both. So after we do this, black would go like this, and kind of like the advanced variation, white would advance. And then black's knight would retreat, and then we would do bishop to d3. The point of bishop to d3 is it's basically just a developing move, and also to make our and also to make castling easier. And then after this, it gets a bit like gets a lot more like the exchange, or sorry, the advance. So black does this, like the advance. Um, white white protects the same way as they do in the advance. Black attacks. White protects. Again, they're all protecting this pawn. And then black attacks again. And then it's... Yeah, and then we're able to keep on protecting. So, yeah, it gets kind of like a... At this point, there's not really anybody left to attack. So, black just takes. And then black does this, which is a quite odd move, but it's probably to get the bishop out and also to help castle and to get rid of this pawn over here so they can move their knight around. And this is pretty much the end of the trash. Alright, let's do the Spanish. The Spanish should be fairly simple. I haven't learned a lot of this myself either, but it's pretty much just a extended version of the Italian. So it starts the same way as the Italian, except in the Spanish is a black opening, I think. No, it's actually white. This is how it would go. And then, so you see the difference? White moved the square up with the bishop. Square upward diagonally adjacent. And now now that it's white's move, there's this, and then white can do this. But this isn't the best move for black, because let's say that white does do this move, which is basically what discerns the Spanish from other openings. Black would probably do this. White takes, 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 takes. And so it's pretty even. This is basically the Spanish, and then it's also called the Ruy Lopez. And then finally, the Sicilian. We're going to be talking about the closed Sicilian, I think. So, this one is played a lot by black, for sure. And, one sec. Alright, it continues like this. Well, white just, develops. Same with black. White moves. Kind of like the Scotch in a sense. Black takes. White takes. And it's actually pretty much the Scotch, except without this square. And it's a little different, but it's pretty similar because we do this the same way as we do in the Scotch. And this is also the same as the Scotch. And then we can do a lot of different moves, but the most preferred one is probably this, so that we can let the bishop out. So this is why we would do that. If we did this, it would probably get a little weird. So that's why we do d6, and then we do, yeah. And then, we just keep developing. And then there's this weird move The reason for it is that we want to get black's bishop into here and make a fianchetto bishop. The point of this type of bishop is that we're not really, even if we move this pawn upwards, we still have this. So it's not really that easy to develop. And also, a fianchetto bishop would like attack this like crazy. So I think that it's actually good to make a fianchetto bishop. So yeah, and then white keeps developing, like literally exactly as a Scotch is how white's playing. And then from here, it's basically just you can do whatever you want, but most people castle. And then after this, I like to start attacking, making sure I have enough pieces. I'll start attacking, and then using the fianchetto bishop. Right now, you can't immediately start because you don't have enough resources. If you take, he takes, you're losing. Yeah, but if you get more into the game, like get more of your pieces on the in the center, then you can start, you know, attacking. So that's what I usually do in this society. Well, guys, I hope you liked my video on the 5 different openings. Um, one of them had 3. It's like a 3-in-1. And these are the openings you need to start your game. And then in the next video, we'll talk about the middle game and how it affects your game. Those don't have names, but it's basically just based on how you play and some tactics you should do. Alright, thanks for watching. See you in another video. Bye.